The bus hissed to a stop outside Orion Group's towering headquarters, a monolith of steel and glass that pierced the morning sky like a blade. The streets bustled with the usual city rhythm, the hum of passing cars, the murmur of early conversations, and the occasional click of polished shoes on marble. Amid this sleek orchestra, Clara Jensen stepped off the bus with little fanfare. She wore a plain gray jacket, the kind that blended into the background, and carried a canvas tote that had seen better days. Her shoes were clean but not polished, and her eyes held the quiet steadiness of someone who had learned not to rush, even when the world demanded it. As she approached the revolving doors of Orion, no one noticed her. Not the interns huddled near the espresso cart, not the executives adjusting their ties in the reflection of the lobby's glass. And that was exactly what she wanted. Inside, the lobby gleamed like a showroom. White marble floors stretched beneath gold-lined lighting fixtures. Large LED screens displayed stock updates and curated messages about innovation and people-first culture. The irony did not escape Clara. She moved toward the janitorial entrance, badge in hand. A young woman at reception glanced at her, offered a half-smile, and returned to her phone. Clara passed unnoticed through the employee hallways, her ID reading only, "Facilities, temp hire, no last name, no title." "New girl," came a voice from behind. Clara turned to see a tall man in an expensive suit with an even more expensive smirk. His name tag read, Victor Hale, Head of Human Resources. His hair was slicked back, every inch of him calculated. Clara nodded, offering a polite smile. "You're early," he said, as if that were suspicious. "Most temps take a week to find the service elevator, let alone show up on time." "I like to learn fast," Clara replied quietly. Victor tilted his head, amused. "That accent? Midwest?" Clara nodded again, softly. "Yes," he chuckled. "A farm girl. Let me guess, wanted to see the big city, earn a little extra before heading back to the cows and cornfields?" She said nothing. Victor's grin widened. "Well, welcome to the palace. Try not to get in anyone's way." He walked off before she could respond, barking orders into his phone. Clara watched him disappear into the glossy maze of executive floors. Then, with practiced composure, she turned and entered the lower levels of the building. The janitorial locker room smelled faintly of bleach and old linoleum. She hung up her jacket, pulled her hair into a neat bun, and stared at her reflection in the tiny mirror bolted to the wall. For a moment, the world outside seemed impossibly far away. Her past, her education, the years of boardroom strategy meetings and keynote speeches, all of it folded neatly into the silence of this new identity. She took a breath. This was not about revenge. This was about truth. Out in the hallways, Clara pushed her cleaning cart with a quiet rhythm, weaving past interns who didn't look up and managers who looked through her. No one asked her name. No one wondered why someone with such calm eyes walked with such intention. That was the power of being invisible. She paused outside conference room A, frosted glass, voices echoing faintly inside. It was a meeting about recruitment policies. Victor's voice rang sharp and certain. She listened, not eavesdropping, observing. Later, she entered the break room to refill her water bottle. Two employees were talking near the microwave. "They're slashing the internship program again," one said. "Hale says it's not strategic enough. It's always about image with him," the other muttered. "Unless you wear a $1,000 suit or come from Yale, you're invisible." Clara turned her back to them and smiled faintly. Exactly. She returned to her cart and made notes, mental, not written. Every corner of this building, every policy, every glance and whisper. She was gathering them all, not as a janitor, as someone with a plan. Because beneath the gray jacket and mop handle, she was the newly appointed CEO of Orion Group. And this was only the beginning. The 11th floor of Orion Group was a world apart, while the ground levels pulsed with routine tasks and muted sighs. The executive floor sparkled with curated elegance. Frosted glass partitions shimmered under ambient lighting, and walls displayed abstract art that cost more than most people's annual salary. Here, perception was everything. Clara moved quietly through the corridors, pushing her cart with practiced discretion. It was her third day, not long enough to be noticed, but long enough to start understanding the rhythms of the building. She had begun to trace the outlines of power, not from titles but from silence, glances, who spoke freely and who didn't. She paused near an open conference room, glancing in as she dusted a nearby frame. Inside, a young woman in a navy dress was presenting slides to a group of executives. Clara recognized her. Sophia Grant, a rising analyst with a reputation for precision. But the room wasn't listening. Victor Hale sat at the head of the table, arms folded, eyes glazed with amusement. Beside him, a board member scribbled on a notepad, barely glancing up. Someone else stifled a yawn. Sophia's voice trembled slightly, but she continued. She had charts, data, strategy. Clara could see her working through it. She saw the way. The young woman's knuckles tightened around the clicker. Then Victor leaned back, arms stretched. "That's a lot of colors," he said, voice dripping with sarcasm. "Tell me, Sophia, did you choose this palette for impact, or because it matches your lipstick?" Laughter broke out, polite, restrained, but laughter nonetheless. Sophia froze. Her eyes darted to the screen, then to the others. She swallowed hard and smiled, trying to laugh with them. Clara looked away. It was a small moment, a casual remark. To the room it passed like a breeze. But Clara knew better. She had seen it 100 times. In startups, in boardrooms, at awards galas. Power didn't always shout. Sometimes it mocked. Later in the break room, Clara overheard 2 interns discussing the scene. Grant was crushed. One whispered, "I don't get it, her report was solid. Victor doesn't like women who talk numbers." The other said with a shrug, "Unless they bring him coffee." Clara refilled her mop bucket in silence. The building, for all its glass, was opaque. Ideas that didn't come from the right mouths were ignored. People who didn't wear the right brands were invisible. Behind the polished mission statements was something colder, something calculated, and Clara knew it wasn't just about her. That night, after most of the office had emptied, she lingered in the hallway outside the HR department. The light inside, Victor's office, glowed faintly. She took out a small device from her bag, nothing more than a modified voice recorder, and slid it into the air vent above the doorway. Not for vengeance, for evidence. She stepped back, calm, steady. Across the hall, she saw Sophia standing alone by the elevator, arms folded, staring at the floor. No one spoke to her. No one offered comfort. Clara met her eyes briefly through the glass, and in that quiet moment, 2 women on opposite sides of power, Clara made a promise. This wouldn't be the last time they underestimated someone. It started. With a printer, Clara was cleaning near the IT help desk when the machine jammed. Paper crumpled halfway through the rollers. Blinking red lights pulsed like a small alarm. She bent down to fix it, but before she could reach it, a voice behind her said, "Let me. This one's cursed." She turned. A young man, early 20s, glasses a bit crooked, shirt untucked, was already kneeling beside her. "Elias Ward," he said quickly. "I do support for the data systems. Kind of invisible around here. You too, I guess." Clara smiled politely. You could say that. He tugged the paper free and sighed. Happens twice a day. The machine's just as tired as the rest of E. So there was something about Elias. Unfiltered, unpolished, but genuine. He didn't treat Clara with condescension or suspicion. He just talked. Like she was part of the team. That small kindness, so rare in this place, stayed with her. Later, that day she spotted him again in the hallway, crouched by a wall outlet with a laptop. His brows were furrowed. You look like you're hunting ghosts, she said. He looked up. Maybe I am. He glanced around, then motioned for her to lean in. Look, this stays between us, okay? He whispered. I think something's off. With our recruitment system, job postings disappearing, applications altered, like someone's filtering out candidates who don't fit some unspoken checklist. Clara kept her expression neutral. Do you have proof? Elias hesitated. Not yet, but I'm trying to track the change logs. HR's firewall is tight. Clara nodded slowly. Keep looking. She left before he could ask why she cared, but now she had confirmation. What she suspected from watching Victor, Elias was seeing it from the inside. The company was quietly shaping itself to fit a narrow image, and anyone who didn't match that image, erased. The next day, Clara passed by the 9th floor copy room. 2 HR staff stood inside, door half open. She paused near the vending machine outside. Don't tell me we're actually interviewing that guy from the tech boot camp, one voice said. He's got zero polish, the other replied. Hale says no accents, no odd resumes, clean only. They laughed. Clara didn't move. The vending machine dropped a bag of pretzels, but she barely noticed. Her jaw tightened, not out of anger, but clarity. She understood now. This wasn't just casual prejudice. It was a pattern, a design. That night she sat in the locker room staring at the tiled floor. The city lights blinked faintly through the narrow basement window. In her tote bag she had a folder. Inside were notes, names, phrases, patterns, all pieces of something larger. She opened her phone and messaged one line to herself. Culture is not written on the wall. It's whispered in the hallway. Upstairs, power moved silently. But down here, Clara was listening, and she wasn't the only one. It was Friday morning, the kind of Friday where everything felt heavier than it should. The air in the office was thick, not with heat, but with tension no one named. Clara was assigned to the executive floor again. She moved with quiet efficiency, wiping down tables, refilling supplies. No one greeted her. Most didn't even look up. As she walked past the main boardroom, Victor's voice floated out, smooth and sharp. And as always, presentation matters. More than precision. People buy the speaker, not the slide. A few light chuckles answered. Clara paused briefly by the glass wall. Inside, Victor stood at the center like a conductor, gesturing over a new intern who looked nervous and overdressed. Clara stepped aside. Later that morning, while she replaced the empty water tank in the corridor, Victor spotted her and stopped mid-step. You, janitor, he said, loud enough for heads to turn. Clara met his eyes. Calm. Yes? You're still here? He walked closer, voice low but laced with mockery. I would have thought someone like you would have run screaming by now. Clara wiped her hands on a cloth. I'm used to staying where others quit. Victor snorted. Cute. But I don't pay for pep talks. You don't pay me at all. That made him pause. A flicker of irritation passed his face. You know what? Come back in 20 minutes. The partners' pre-meeting is starting. You'll serve coffee. Of course. Victor's smirk returned. Don't spill. I'd hate to see that uniform. Covered in espresso. Clara gave a small nod. I'll be careful, but if it spills, it won't be the worst stain in this room. Victor stared at her for a beat, then scoffed and walked off. At exactly 11:30, Clara entered the room with a tray. 12 cups, all labeled. She moved with deliberate care, placing each cup in front of the partners. Some thanked her softly. Others didn't look up. Victor leaned against the window, watching her like a cat watches a mouse. As she placed the final cup, he spoke again. What do you think, folks? Should we hire more staff from wherever she's from? Laughter broke. Tight. Performative. A few partners shifted uncomfortably. Clara straightened. Her voice was quiet, but it cut clean. I'm from a place where people earn their voice. The room stilled. Victor chuckled. See? They even speak in riddles now. Must be all that farm wisdom. No one laughed. One executive cleared his throat. Another stirred his coffee without sipping. Clara didn't break her gaze from Victor. You seem uncomfortable, he said, mock frowning. Was I too rough? No, she replied evenly. Just too predictable. Victor's smile faltered. She turned, left the room, and shut the door behind her. Out in the hallway, she exhaled slowly. This wasn't the moment to reveal everything. Not yet. But a seed had been planted, and Victor, so used to towering over others, had just heard the first crack in the foundation. The main boardroom was packed. Clara stood near the far wall, holding a tray of coffee. The room buzzed with voices, low, calculated, comfortable in power. Around the oval table sat Orion's senior executives, their watches glinting beneath the recessed lighting, their laughs well-practiced. Victor Hale stood at the front, arms stretched across the whiteboard. His voice filled the space effortlessly. Before we start, let's take a moment to recognize effort, he said. Even the humble kind. He turned toward Clara, gesturing with exaggerated politeness. Coffee service today is courtesy of... Sorry, what was your name again? Clara didn't. Answer. Victor grinned. Right, doesn't matter. But she's from housekeeping, so let's give her a hand, yeah? A few claps followed, weak, reluctant. Some executives glanced at each other. No one smiled. Clara placed the tray down and began distributing the drinks. One cup at a time. Her hands steady. Victor wasn't done. Now this is hot stuff, he said, lifting one cup theatrically. Not just the coffee. The decisions we make today could affect a lot of people. Even the janitorial class. A soft laugh escaped from someone near the end of the table. A woman in accounting looked away. Clara placed the final cup in front of him. She didn't look at his face. Victor leaned back in his chair and sipped. Hope you didn't mess up the order. Would be a shame if the new intern drank the CFO's triple roast and fell asleep halfway through her report. He set the cup down, then, accidentally, knocked over a folder Clara was carrying. Papers fluttered across the polished floor. Oops, he said flatly. Maybe next time use a tray that isn't from your grandmother's kitchen. The room was still. Clara crouched to collect the pages. She moved slowly, deliberately, as if each paper were more fragile than it was. No one helped her. One executive, Diane Reeve, watched quietly. Her brow furrowed. She said nothing. As Clara gathered the final sheet, Victor said, louder now, You know, sometimes I wonder if people like her spent less time cleaning floors and more time understanding balance sheets, maybe they wouldn't end up on the wrong side of the glass. There was no laughter, only silence. Clara stood. She didn't speak. She only nodded once, small, sharp, and turned to leave. At the door, she paused. Then came the quietest sentence in the room that morning. You're right about one thing. she said without turning back. I do understand balance sheets. I also understand imbalance. She left before anyone could respond. Outside in the hallway, her breath came fast. Not from shame, but from pressure held in, like a tide that had yet to break. Inside the room, Victor rolled his eyes. Tense. Huh? These people take themselves too seriously. But no one laughed. For the first time, the silence didn't shield him. The office looked no different the next day. The coffee machine still sputtered. The lights still hummed. Victor still strolled through the halls with the ease of someone who thought himself untouchable. But something had shifted, not in the space, but in the silence. Clara walked the same hallways, but now, eyes followed her just a second longer. The woman in accounting, the one who looked away yesterday, nodded faintly as Clara passed. A man in IT stepped aside, letting her go first at the elevator. No one said anything, but the echoes were building. That evening, as the building emptied, Clara returned to the 10th floor with a small hard drive tucked in her pocket. She met Elias in the copy room. Lights dimmed, blinds half drawn. "You're late," he whispered, but his tone was light. "You're paranoid," Clara replied. He shrugged. "Only about things worth being paranoid about." Elias connected his laptop, pulled up a folder. "I traced the firewall logs like you asked. HR's system's a mess, but I found access timestamps that don't make sense. There's someone deleting candidate profiles after business hours." "Who?" "Victor," Elias said, eyes flicking up. "Or someone logging in under his credentials." Clara exhaled through her nose. "Good. That's not all. Remember those interview evaluation forms? I found 2 versions. One from the panel, one from HR. They're not the same." Her eyes narrowed. "Tampered? Cleaned?" Elias said. "Applicants with unconventional resumes? Gone. Those who raised equity issues in interviews? Gone." She studied the screen. "This is more than bias," she said. "It's control." He leaned back in his chair. "You're not exactly who you say you are you?" Clara didn't flinch. "No, but I'm exactly who this place needs," he grinned. "That's the most HR unfriendly way I've ever heard someone say, 'I'm here to fix it.'" Clara smiled just a little. "I'm not here to fix it. I'm here to rebuild it." They exchanged files quickly. Clara uploaded the audio clips she had collected. Victor mocking interns, overriding hiring decisions, joking about filtering the weak. Nothing illegal, but all devastating. "Send me everything," she said. "Encrypted, untraceable." Elias nodded. "What's next?" "Leverage," she said, standing. "No war is won without it." The next morning, Diane Reeve, the CFO, received an anonymous email. It contained 3 attachments. 1. Altered hiring evaluations. 2. Internal correspondence contradicting public diversity statements. 3. An uncut audio clip of Victor mocking Clara during the partner meeting. No sender name. Just one subject line. "You once said silence isn't neutral. Neither is power." Diane stared at the screen. Her fingers hovered above the trackpad. Then slowly, she forwarded the message to the CEO inbox. Still empty, still waiting for its new occupant. Outside, Clara polished the conference room window. Her reflection stared back. Neutral, quiet, focused. She was no longer waiting to be seen. She was waiting to be heard. Monday arrived with rain. Not the kind that danced gently on windows, but the kind that fell straight and cold, soaking through. Coats and tempers. The mood inside Orion mirrored the sky. Damp, tight, uneasy. People walked faster in the hallways, looked less in each other's eyes. Whispers had begun. Whispers that didn't fade with distance. At exactly 9 a.m., A calendar. Invite appeared on every senior staff member's screen. Sent from the CFO's office. Subject: Integrity and Image Urgent Briefing. Location: Main boardroom. Required: all. Clara saw the title as she wheeled her cart past the glass-enclosed war room. Inside, Diane stood alone, flipping through a slim folder. Her eyes didn't rise when Victor stepped in, but her voice carried sharp and clear. Sit down. This won't take long. The executives trickled in, one by one. No one spoke. Victor took his usual seat at the front, legs crossed, confident as ever. Clara stood outside, invisible as always, except this time, her presence wasn't empty. It was deliberate, a shadow placed with intent. Diane began with calm precision. We've received anonymous information concerning discrepancies in our hiring practices and internal culture. Before we move forward, I'd like you to hear something. She pressed play. At first, just static. Then Victor's voice, crisp and unmistakable. Does it matter where she's from? Mop buckets don't need MBAs. A pause, then laughter, not warm but calculated. Filter the applications. We don't need another diversity project sitting in meetings pretending to know what a budget looks like. A breathless stillness fell over the room. One man looked down at his notes as if they might dissolve. Another woman folded her arms slowly, deliberately. Victor blinked. That's clearly taken out of context, he said too fast. It's incomplete, slanted. Diane turned. There's more. The second clip rolled. The partner meeting. Clara's voice, firm but quiet. I do understand balance sheets. I also understand imbalance. Then Victor again, laughing, dismissive. Let's not pretend janitors know anything about strategy. No one laughed this time. The silence wasn't neutral. It was ice. And it was loud. Victor stood up. This is absurd. You can't take anonymous clips as policy evidence. This is just a distraction. This is culture, Diane said coldly. This is who people believe we are, and it's being watched. He opened his mouth again, but Clara stepped inside the room. She didn't knock. She didn't ask. She walked forward slowly, stopping just behind Diane. I think it's time, Diane said, eyes on the others, that everyone here met the new CEO. Victor's laugh, short, breathless, escaped before he could stop it. You can't be serious. Clara met his eyes. You were right, Victor. I didn't belong here. Not as a cleaner, but I do belong here. As your superior. No one interrupted. No one defended him. Not this time. Clara turned to the room. I've been watching, listening, learning what's underneath the numbers we present and the smiles we sell. It's time to rebuild. Victor backed away half a step. For the first time, his voice didn't come. Not because he was silenced, but because he had nothing left to say that could save him. The boardroom remained frozen. No one moved. No one blinked. It was as if time itself had drawn a breath and was holding it in suspense. Clara stood at the head of the table. She wore no suit, no title badge. Just the same gray blouse and calm posture. But the room had changed. The people in it had changed. And the silence was no longer indifference. It was attention. Victor stared at her, his jaw tight, his confidence bleeding, out in quiet panic. You're not listed anywhere, he muttered. There's no record. Diane Reeves spoke instead. The official appointment takes effect this week. The board approved it months ago. Clara was given full discretion on how and when to reveal herself. Victor's voice rose, almost childish. This is a setup. No, Clara said, voice even. This is a mirror. She stepped closer to the table, her gaze sweeping across the room. You all saw me every day, and you looked past me. You laughed when I was mocked. You turned away when I was diminished. Not because you believed I was unworthy, but because it was easier to stay quiet. The woman from accounting looked down, ashamed. Clara continued. You mistook simplicity for stupidity, humility for weakness. A mop in my hand erased my resume in your eyes. She turned toward Victor. You built your influence on who people appeared to be. I built mine by watching who they truly are. Victor's hands curled at his sides. You came here under false pretenses. I came here to see the truth, not the reports, not the HR press kits. The truth behind the doors you kept closed. She leaned slightly forward. And now I know. Diane placed a folder on the table. Elias's findings, Clara's recordings, time-stamped logs, conflicting hiring notes. The evidence is extensive, she said. It suggests bias, manipulation of recruitment data, and repeated cultural violations. Victor laughed, a weak, cracking sound. This can't be real, this can't. It is, Clara said. And now the consequences are. She nodded toward Diane, who spoke with chilling calm. As of this morning, your administrative access has been suspended. Your contract is under legal review. You're to leave the premises immediately. Victor looked around the room, eyes pleading, but no one stood, no one spoke for him. His years of dominance collapsed in a single moment of collective stillness. Clara watched as he stepped back, the weight of exposure slowly sinking in. I built this floor, he hissed. No, Clara replied softly. You built a ceiling, one that's about to be torn down. Victor turned without another word, pushing through the doors, disappearing into a hallway that no longer belonged to him. And then, it happened. Someone clapped. Soft. Once. Then again. Another joined. Then another. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't for show. It was real. The kind of applause that comes not from duty but from respect. Clara didn't smile. She only bowed her head gently. Because justice, when earned not imposed, doesn't need fireworks. It only needs truth, and someone brave enough to carry it, even when it's heavy. 2 weeks passed. The rain gave way to a gentler sky, and inside, Orion Group, something else shifted too. Subtle at first, like the way people started greeting each other at the elevators, or how meetings opened with real questions instead of rehearsed pleasantries. Victor was gone. Officially, he had been placed on extended leave pending review, but everyone knew. His office sat empty, blinds half drawn, desk cleared. No one dared claim it. It felt haunted, not by him, but by the silence he had ruled with. Clara didn't take that office. She moved into a modest corner space on the 8th floor, overlooking a small rooftop garden she had insisted be reopened. The desk was plain. The light was soft. The door stayed open. People noticed. She didn't host grand speeches. She held quiet, focused one-on-one meetings, with interns, with assistants, with engineers. She asked about their days, not their degrees. She listened like their answers mattered, because to her, they did. Her first official act wasn't to rebrand or restructure. It was to restore. The company's recruitment portal was overhauled. Application filters were removed. Blind review processes were instituted. Names, photos, accents. None of it would shape a candidate's path again. She created a task force. Not of executives, but of staff from every floor, every background. Their job, audit not just policy, but culture. One morning she stood in the break room, not to make an announcement, but to refill her tea. A junior analyst approached nervously. Miss Parker? Clara turned. Clara's fine. The young woman hesitated. I wanted to say thank you for what you did, for what you're doing. Clara smiled softly. It's not just me. I just made the first move. But no one else would have, the woman said. You didn't have to come here, like you did, pretending to be— I wasn't pretending, Clara interrupted gently. I've scrubbed floors before, cleaned offices. The part was real. All of it was. The woman looked confused. Clara continued. Respect doesn't start when you get a title. It starts when you don't have one. When you choose to treat others well anyway. That sentence traveled further than any memo ever could. Diane watched all of it unfold from her office. One afternoon she stopped by Clara's door. You know, she said, they're calling it the Quiet Revolution. Clara glanced up. What are they saying? That no one saw it coming. That change came with a mop and a sharp mind. Clara smiled faintly. Good. Let them keep wondering how it happened. That way they won't forget why. She returned to her screen. An employee report. Not urgent, but important. Because that's how Clara rebuilt the company. Not with headlines. With attention. With respect. With the kind of quiet strength only a few ever master. It was just past 5 on a Friday afternoon when Clara stood before the company. Not on a stage. Not behind a podium. Just by the wide windows of the 12th floor, where the sun dipped gently behind the skyline and bathed the office in quiet gold. The town hall was casual, chairs in loose rows, coffee cups still warm in hands. And yet, everyone was listening. "No, many of you still don't quite know what to make of me," Clara said, her voice calm, her posture relaxed. "And I don't blame you." A few chuckles rose, soft, respectful. I showed up without a nameplate, without an announcement. Some of you thought I was lost. Some thought I was lying. Some just didn't see me at all. That's the part that stayed with me. She paused. The silence was full, not empty, but thoughtful. I didn't come here to test you, she continued. I came to understand what we've become, behind the mission statements, beneath the polished reports. And what I found wasn't just problems. I found potential buried under fear, under noise, under rules that no one remembered writing. She looked slowly across the room, faces she had once passed by with a mop, now watching her like a compass. We don't need another leader who talks over people. We need one who listens before speaking. We don't need more branding. We need more belief in each other. That's what I want us to build together. A hand rose. It was Elias. No longer hunched behind servers, now sitting straight in a collared shirt that didn't quite fit, but somehow felt right. What if we mess up? Again? He asked. Not sarcastic. Honest. Clara nodded. We will. Some laughed, not out of mockery, but relief. We'll get things wrong, she said. We'll make calls that don't land. But the difference is this. We'll face it together, with transparency, with integrity, and with the humility to course correct. Diane, standing at the back, folded her arms, not in doubt but in pride. Another voice from the crowd, softer. And if the next Clara walks in, will we recognize her? Clara smiled, wide this time. That depends on you, the meeting. Ended not with applause, but with quiet conversation. Handshakes, notes exchanged, sleeves rolled back up. No one rushed to the elevator. People lingered. Later, Clara stood alone by the rooftop garden, wind lifting her hair just slightly. Below her, the city kept moving, unaware of the small revolution that had taken root 12 floors above. Diane joined her, 2 cups of tea in hand. You could have come in here with fanfare, with bodyguards and big speeches, she said. Clara took a sip. And what would that have taught them? Diane didn't answer. She didn't need to. The sun dipped. Lower. Lights flicked on one by one through office windows nearby. The world, vast and fast, kept spinning. But inside Orion, something had paused. Reset begun again, and as Clara looked out at the city, no longer needing to be seen but finally understood, she whispered to no one in particular. The quiet ones are the ones who change everything. Sometimes the strongest person in the room is the one no one saw coming, not because they were weak, but because they were patient, because they listened, because they believed that quiet strength can still move mountains. Clara's story is not just about corporate injustice. It's about the courage to rise without shouting, the grace to lead without belittling, and the brilliance of turning silence into change. If this story moved you, made you think, or reminded you of someone who quietly changed your life, let us know in the comments. We read every single one. What would you have done if you were in Clara's shoes? Would you stay quiet or would you stand up, even if your voice shakes? Share your thoughts. Your story might inspire someone else. And if you believe, the world needs more stories like this, stories of dignity, resilience, and quiet power, then please subscribe to our channel. Like this video to support the message. Share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Here, we don't just tell stories. We give voice to the unseen and power to the underestimated, because every whisper matters. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next story.